upset the Brewers yesterday, all moving on to the divisional round. D-backs will take on the Dodgers. Phillies will take on the Braves. Twins versus the Astros, and Rangers versus the Orioles in tonight, Thursday night football, 5:15 kickoff there as Brent's Bears takes on the Washington Commanders. Owning a Mercedes-Benz EV isn't just extraordinary, it's extra easy with full remote access to your vehicle from your phone via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes. The choice is all yours. Learn more at mbusa.com/EQ.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Jesse Rogers, ESPN, bit of a right-hand man for Jeff Passan. He'll join us coming up in 5 minutes. What does he make of the Padres running it back? Bob Melvin, as Jim just said, confirming with the AP and now others, including our Kevin Acee, that he will be back for 2024. So despite all the dysfunction and the reported rifts and the worst-kept secret in baseball and the Civil War, despite it all, they're both back for 2024 following the most disappointing season in franchise history. So what does that say about this relationship or lack thereof between AJ Preller and Bob Melvin, as both men will return in their roles for next season?
Bob to the AP on the reported Civil War with AJ Preller, quote, "Those are anonymous reports, so we're fine and we're moving forward and we're both excited about it." Okay. We were talking about this before we came on here, and my first initial thought is like, I'm just so confused. I'm so
and that's fair.
Confused about everything, because you have reports from, credible reports from AC and Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal collaborating together with Dennis, all saying there is issues here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they can coexist. I don't know how this is going to continue. You have players inside that clubhouse right now saying like, yeah, it's a problem. It's a mom and dad fighting all the time. I'm getting one thing and then I'm getting another from AJ and Bob. And this thing is just, I don't know how this is going to work going into next season, especially coming off of, this horrible season and this embarrassing year with the expectations that were had. And then it's like 3 days after the season ends, the most embarrassing, disappointing season in franchise history because of the expectations and the money that was spent. Now we're good, bro. Everything's fine. Everything's cool. Me and AJ were best buddies. AJ, hey, I love you, man. Hey, Bob, bro, I love you, bro. Everything's fine.
But this is why, and I've said this repeatedly, the truth is somewhere in the middle in all likelihood. It's not the worst relationship in the history of baseball. Like, is it truly that, folks? Is the Preller-Melvin relationship the worst in the history of baseball? And if the answer is yes, ask yourself this. Why on earth would Bob Melvin come back? This veteran, credible, established, likable manager with 1 year on his deal. He can't get out of his final year. Give me a break. It's also probably not what Jim just said. It's probably not the greatest relationship in baseball history. It's somewhere in between. It's like everyone has in their life. You have a job, you have good relationships, you have bad relationships. You make them work for the betterment of others. And you got to do your job. And Bob Melvin thinks he can do his job in 2024. AJ Preller thinks he can do his job in 2024. I'm sure it's not hunky-dory. They weren't good last year. No. They're both responsible for it. But this idea that they cannot coexist is inaccurate because they're both returning in 2024.
I just view it as, and I'm sure a lot of fans view this as well, is after this type of season and 9 years of AJ,
Mm-hmm.
how there's no consequences. There's nothing
That's fair.
there's like, hey, everything's okay. This past year, let's not worry about it.
That's Peter.
I know that is Peter.
That's not, and we said this. AJ is not getting rid of himself.
Well,
now you could argue Melvin. You could argue Melvin. If Melvin had such a big issue with AJ, Jim, I do think Melvin would put his foot down and say, "I'm out." Like, I think that's more than a realistic possibility, but that didn't transpire. Why? Because he's got the guaranteed money in 2024.
Yeah, it's if nothing else, this whole entire situation, I think, has caused way more confusion and potentially misleading, and just everybody's mind is scrambled. It's all scrambled eggs.
Yep.
Like, wait, what do I believe here?
Yep.
You're getting credible reports about this thing is horrible. And then you got Bob and AJ are like, dude, we're fine. Everything's fine. And then the record of the team is the record. And then it's like, well, I'm try to 2 and 2 together here, and you guys suck. And you hear Bob after, games talking about roster construction and like openly upset about things that are happening with this roster. And you're like, what do I believe? I don't know, man. Look, now that we are essentially past this, I guess, so there's nothing else to really talk about with them to going forward, unless you really just want to like try to be that conspiracy theorist and like, there's something wrong. I know it. Then I guess it's like, okay, well, you got to win next year. And if you don't win next year, then there has to be change then, because if there's not change now, I don't know what to believe.
And to our collective point, of Jesse Rogers from ESPN joining us right now, and Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. There wasn't change. After 2019 second half, there was disappointment. 2021 they collapsed. 2023 they were just disappointing basically all year long. So Jesse Rogers from ESPN back with us here on Jon and Jim. Jesse, first of all, thank you, and secondly, what do you make of the fact that both AJ Preller and Bob Melvin will be back in 2024 after the disappointing 2023 here?
Yeah, I hate to kind of give you a cop out here, but I would not have been surprised either way. I would not have been surprised if one of them left or both of them left. I'm sure you guys were all discussing that for days, if not weeks and months. But I'm not shocked that they're returning. And the reason is, look, that's a good, talented team that went, 1-11 in extra innings. All these weird things kind of happen, but there's talent there. They just need to mold it a little bit better. Remember that teams win championships, not all-star appearances, things like that. So I'm not shocked. I mean, I know a lot of people thought Bob Melvin would want to walk away, but there's not a lot of teams that talented. And you've had a year. It didn't go well. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it didn't shock me that they're both back, but it would not have surprised me if one or both were gone either.
Jesse, recently in the past couple of days, you have heard more and more from other teams when asked about spending, and it feels like there's been a lot of pushback from other teams about, hey, you can't spend a bunch of money and expect to win. You got to build the right core, and that quick fix, I guess, approach it doesn't work. And if you want to look at the Padres, I'm not saying that they're saying that, but like the Padres are the perfect example of that quick fix, put a bunch of money in your franchise, does not work. Do you see next year them being able to compete by lowering their payroll, but also still having a very top-heavy roster?
I love when people say it doesn't work. How many of those people picked the Padres to go far into the playoffs this year back in March, including myself? Like, we all say it in hindsight. It can work if you have the right mix in the locker room. We've seen it over the last few years. High payrolls can go far. Low payrolls can go far. There's no real great rhyme or reason. I'd rather spend money than not. If I'm a fan of a team, I'd rather see that. But you do have to have the role players, the grinders, and maybe it was a lesson learned that it just doesn't, take a bunch of all-stars rolling them out there in April and think you're going to win it all. So I think that's what they have to address. That, okay, we have the star guys. Now we need the grinders, or maybe we need some of the stars to grind a little bit. I mean, this is where Bob Melvin has to earn his paycheck as much as AJ Preller. I know everybody's probably anti-AJ Preller out there, but it's Melvin's job to mold these stars. that he's been handed. Who didn't want Xander Bogaerts? Who doesn't want Manny or Fernando, right? I mean, that's the thing. Back in January, February, March, we're talking about this being one of the great teams in recent memory, and now we're all saying, no, you can't win with them. Well, it's Melvin's job to mold it. It's AJ Preller's job to figure out where the holes are and fill it in, and then, it's up to the players, obviously, to come together. It just didn't happen this year. So, yes, the answer is yes. Of course they can get back at it, but they've got to find that sweet spot of chemistry and grinding out as the good teams do. Even the high payroll teams do it.
Well, 2024 here is going to be fascinating, and we'll see if something has to give or not based on how they play on field. Jesse Rogers, ESPN, with us right now on Jon and Jim. I'm sure you saw some of the reported dysfunction. It was written locally. It was written nationally. Even quotes anonymously, like a civil war between Preller and Melvin. How do you react to reading some of that if both of these men are returning to their roles?
Well, like I said, it's such a good situation to be in. You're in San Diego. I mean, you're not going to walk away unless you really, really are unhappy. So, okay, they're back in their roles. Maybe they are not the best of friends, although Preller said it is a friendship. I don't know if ownership said to Preller, look, this is your last manager, right? He's had like 5 of them. So maybe they're being forced to work together. But the point is, you can work together. Now, you need pretty decent working relationship, even if you're not friends, and that remains to be seen. Like, was it that bad of a working relationship? Neither one's walking away. Neither one's been fired. So someone believes they can get along. So that's kind of where I fall. It's better if you're friends and have a great working relationship, but as long as you can work together, that's okay. Now, AJ, he beats to his own drum. He's a little different of a guy, right? Mm-hmm. He's kind of out there. I feel like he sort of isolates himself in a lot of ways, and that draws criticism. So he works in a different manner, and maybe after a couple of years here, they'll figure out the sweet spot to work together. But yeah, I had heard things all along that they just didn't get along, and a lot of people that I talked to thought Melvin was going to walk away. There's jobs in San Francisco and Cleveland that are open, other places. But look, none of those jobs have Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado, and Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish and everybody. So I still think that, yeah, if it's not perfect, it doesn't mean it can't work. But maybe it can't be as bad as last year. They've got to sort of rebound from what happened last year and come together.
Yeah, it is interesting. Get a bunch of reports, and even you've heard that the relationship was not good, and all of a sudden they're best buddies at the end of the year after just a couple days.
That's kind of what I'm saying. You could become best buddies when you realize we got a lot of talent here. Let's give this another shot.
Right. Yeah. I just in 82 and 80 season, it maybe like look okay on paper, but then you look at the roster and the expectations, and you're like, how is this been able to like just been swept under the rug? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Jesse, one player that I feel like is going to draw a lot of interest this offseason with the Padres is Juan Soto. How much interest do you think it will be drawn, as far as trading for him goes from other teams? And do you think that that's a possibility with the payroll, limitations that potentially the Padres could be facing coming up next year, that he could be dealt this offseason?
Yeah, no, I think it's a possibility. In part because the free agent class isn't that great outside of Shohei, of course. This isn't the deepest free agent class. So then you look to guys that are tradable. Soto is certainly in that category. Pete Alonso is in that category. Guys with 1 year left. I mean, maybe Alonso more likely than Soto in a lot of ways, because it seems like the Mets are going to do a little retool. I mean, that's what Scherzer told everybody, right? So, I think because the free agent class isn't too deep after Ohtani and Bellinger, from a position player standpoint and even pitchers, I think that's where teams would kick the tires a little bit more. These are such difficult trades to make, the 1 year kind of thing. We always talk about, well, maybe they'll trade for him and sign him right away. That's a Boris client. It rarely happens, not impossible. Pete Alonso now is a Boris client, apparently. So the sort of trade and sign, it sounds good. It just rarely happens in reality. I guess it did with Francisco Lindor, not a Boris client. So I don't know. I don't know what the possibility is. Here's my point. I'm not sure that San Diego is going to get true value if the team trading for Soto just doesn't know if he's going to stick around for one more year. Now, Soto could be the finishing touch on a bunch of teams. Who knows? Like the Yankees. I mean, they're desperate to get back to the among the elite teams. I think they'll go after Bellinger. Maybe they can put some trade together for Soto. So I think a desperate team would do it for 1 year. A more measured team isn't likely to do it unless it's just a couple prospects because it's 1 year. That's it. So the trade and sign just doesn't seem likely with Boris. Not impossible, but just not likely.
Jesse Rogers, ESPN, with us on Jon and Jim. So, Jesse, I look at the Mets and Padres and the strategies off disappointing seasons, and they're 180s. The Mets selling off parts. Padres did not. The David Stearns hire in season. Billy Epler is out. Preller is not. When you look at the two strategies, what do you make of the way that the Mets have done it and the way that Peter Seidler and the Padres have done it?
Oh, I don't think it's really hard to figure it out. AJ Preller goes to Peter, says, look, we were 2-12 in extras. We were 9-23 in one-run games. We were -10 in the luck factor, which is built into those numbers. Our Pythagorean win-loss record was supposed to be 92-70. You can make it. And you know what? He may not be wrong. The run differential screams a better record. If weird things happen sometimes, so that's what you can say, look, that strategy that they're on is not such a bad one. Repeat the season with that run differential, we might be 92-70. So that's the difference. The Mets really were bad. San Diego was bad, and there's the difference. There's no but with the Mets. And they had an older, and that's everything, very old roster there going for it with Verlander and Scherzer. So that was either going to work or it was going to implode, and it imploded. I think it's a different situation with San Diego, and I think that's what you can sell to ownership if you're AJ Preller.
Jesse, moving to the division round of the postseason, all sweeps in the wild card round. The Diamondbacks were the only upset there, beating the Brewers. That was kind of interesting. But moving over to the division round, Jesse, what series are you most looking forward to watching?
Well, obviously everybody's going to say Philadelphia, Atlanta, and I am. But I am on the Minnesota Twins bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
I just, there's something about that team. I like them in this series. Everybody's like, they haven't won in 20 years. Yeah, well, it's going to break at some point. I thought Toronto was flawed. I'm not surprised they swept. I love Houston as an organization. They've done great, but there's always that vulnerability factor after winning a World Series. Like, we haven't seen a repeat in forever. So let's work backwards from the idea that they're not going to repeat. Well, okay, that means they're going to lose somewhere along the way. It could be in the World Series. So I kind of want to see what the Twins can do. They have starting pitching, probably as good as anyone left in the playoffs. There's all sorts of teams that have maybe one or two starters, but not so deep, right? Even the Dodgers, I give Diamondbacks a chance with Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen. The Dodgers aren't the deepest starting staff right now. It's not Kershaw, 27 years old, right? So, and Lance Lynn, he could go either way. So I obviously feel Atlanta is going to be a war, absolute war. I'm going to Philadelphia for when the series shifts there. But I kind of like to see some of these upsets potentially with Minnesota or even Arizona. So those are the couple series I'm actually interested in more, just because I think the underdogs have a chance. Having said that, it's the first time in history a team, the Diamondbacks, with a negative run differential facing a team with a 200-plus run differential. So, look, Minnesota and obviously the history of Houston here, these teams, Minnesota and Arizona, are going to be huge underdogs, but I still give them a shot.
Jesse, one more before you go. The free agent markets for Blake Snell and Josh Hader, you'd be surprised if either was back in San Diego, right, off the seasons they just had?
I think so. I'm not too in tune with what they're going to spend Padre-wise this offseason, but obviously they've spent a lot already. If you could keep Snell, you should, right? As soon as you let him go, you got to replace him somehow. But obviously they have some starting pitchers there. Look, Hader's going to get a good contract, but executives have gotten smarter and smarter about closers. A lot of them like to develop them from within. Again, a finishing touch for a team, maybe that's the case. Closers are just so much more valuable at the trade deadline than they are in the winter. But it doesn't mean he won't get a big contract because he's Josh Hader. So I think he will. But sometimes we think the market's bigger for some of those guys than it is. But Snell's market should be good. There's just not many great starting pitchers. He's going to win the Cy Young. So many teams. I just mentioned a bunch of playoff teams that are a little short in that department. So think about those teams going into next year, and think about these teams that are trying to climb into the next tier. So there's going to be a great market for Blake Snell. He's going to get paid big money. Hader, the market's just going to be smaller, and I think that's just how it works with closers in the winter.
Jesse, great stuff. We're looking forward to the divisional round. Really appreciate you taking time for us today in San Diego. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks, Jesse.
Anytime, guys. Have a good offseason.
All right, you as well. Jesse Rogers, ESPN. A lot of good insight there.
The one thing that he said there, like, he's a national reporter. Now, I know that he is based out of Chicago, so that's his home base, but he is a national reporter for ESPN. And he said that, I heard a lot that there was problems there, and that I would, didn't think Bob Melvin was going to return, and something like
clearly there's
so confusing, dude.
Right. This isn't like Mario and Luigi. Do they have a good relationship?
Oh my!
Or like CP
it's Mario and Luigi,
and CP and 3PO, or whatever. Clearly, these aren't the best of friends.
And CP, 3P, and O.
They're not the best of friends, but are they literally like evil, bitter rivals? That's what you have to ask yourself. As in, what he was saying is like, listen, it's a good roster. Are you going to walk away from it just because you don't have the best relationship? Or are you going to try again? I just think it's somewhere in the middle. And I'm not questioning the reporting at all. But I don't think it's as bad as some believe it is. And I don't think everything is hunky-dory either. I just think maybe there's a rift. Maybe it's not perfect. I don't think that's ideal for the organization. But I don't think it's at such a detriment that both men don't believe that they can try again.
I think what they're banking on is because they have so much talent.
Right.
That
they can overcome.
They can overcome whatever differences they have. That, hey, if we just win, it doesn't matter if we don't get along.
That's right.
If we win because we have so much talent, it doesn't matter that I think that sometimes, you're an
He's
idiot.
A micromanager.
Or you call me at weird hours of the night and I'm like, AJ, F off, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. So that's what they're banking on, I feel like. They're banking on their top talent, and it's, if they keep Juan Soto too, that they're going to just win, and that's going to just mask everything.
To be continued in 2024. Fantasy Insider Paul Charchi and Charch, who joins us each and every week, will get us ready for Week 5 in the NFL. It kicks off tonight. Stay with us. All right, we're going to get you ready for Fantasy Football Week 5 and the NFL with Thursday Night Football kicking off tonight. Commanders and Bears. Paul Charchian, our fantasy insider, will join us next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Bob Melvin has spoken. He confirmed to Bernie Wilson in the AP that he will return to manage the Padres next season. Everything is fine, guys. Everything is fine. AJ and Bob are best buddies. Moving over to Major League Baseball playoffs, all sweeps in the wild card round. Only upset was the D-backs over the Brewers. Right now in the division round, we have the Rangers taking on the Orioles, Twins and Astros in the American League. And then in the National League, you got the Phillies and the Braves and the D-backs and the Dodgers. And tonight, Thursday Night Football, Week 5 finally kicks off. That's crazy. Bears and Commanders, 5:15 kickoff there. Owning a Mercedes-Benz EV isn't just extraordinary, it's extra easy with full remote access to your vehicle from your phone via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicles are all electric. The feelings in the Mercedes, the choice is yours. Learn more at mbusa.com/EQ today.
All right, what the Padres can learn from the lowly Mets coming up in 15 minutes right now. As Jim just said, it's Week 5 somehow of the NFL. It kicks off tonight, Thursday Night Football. Paul Charchian is our fantasy insider, guillotineleagues.com. Make sure to check it out. Fantasy insider Paul Charchian, back with us here on Jon and Jim. So speaking of this Bears-Commanders game, I mean, this is as big as it gets, right? Is this game of the century type stuff? Thursday Night Football, Amazon, Bears-Commanders. What do you think?
This is a game only fantasy players could love, right?
Exactly.
And we do actually. I mean, these are some opportunities to start guys you don't normally feel great about, but maybe you do in this game, mostly because the Bears are such a bad defense that we're gonna have some fun with Commanders tonight.
Paul, looking at some players that are returning or potentially returning here next week or this weekend or next week, which player do you think is going to just immediately step on the field and be a difference maker and produce right away out of these three? Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, and Jameson Williams of Detroit.
Jonathan Taylor's the safe one because first, I never believed this ankle injury that he played on last year was even still a problem. And it seemed like this whole month off was more about just him getting in the right headspace to be with the team and be an active participant, which today, when he met with the media, he said the contract disputes was an off-season thing and he's just going to go out and run, which is great. So his coach, Shane Steichen, said when asked if Jonathan Taylor was going to play, he said, "We'll see," but he's a liar. So we know he's playing and, he should play. And if Jim Irsay is smart, I'd start showcasing Taylor. I mean, if you really want to get rid of him and you want to trade him, let's showcase him and show everybody that he's healthy and effective still, which would be great for fantasy, by the way. The immediate problem for Jonathan Taylor, though, Jon and Jim, is Titans are a really good run defense. I mean, it's like the one thing they've been able to do really well. That and running with Derrick Henry for the most part over the last several years. I mean, good run defense. So we look at the lead backs over the course of this season. Lead backs averaging just 42 yards per game against Tennessee. Only one of them has scored all year, and the Titans have the fifth best run stuff win rate. This is a tricky matchup, but Jonathan Taylor, I still think he's touched the ball like 15 times, so I'm in. I'm starting him. I've got him in my flex spot in a couple of weeks.
All right, so Paul Charchin, Jim. So moving over, though, to Cooper Kupp, everyone's been asking this question, like, what impact will Kupp have on Puka Nacua and vice versa? How do you see that playing out, assuming both, moving forward are healthy?
Yeah, so this one I'm a lot more hesitant on because we're only 5 weeks removed from Cooper Kupp going through a complete setback on the hamstring injury to the point that he was traveling the country looking for second opinion. So that worries me a little bit, and I more here don't, a lot more questions on like what's his snap count going to be. He's still only limited in practice this week, whereas Jonathan Taylor's completely off the injury list. So I think this one is much more of a wait and see. I've got him ranked as my 30th wide receiver right now, and pending more information through Friday's practice. And I just worry that Cooper Kupp's going to get eased into work because this team can survive on Puka Nacua. This dude's great. He can clearly power this offense, which he's doing. So I feel like I'd rather wait until Cooper Kupp shows me, A, that he's on the field for most of the and B, that, he's going to be a focal point. Once he's healthy, he'll be a focal point again. He and Cooper Kupp, they can both get fed easily by Matthew Stafford. So they're both in good shape. I just want to see Cooper Kupp play a whole game first. So if that means I miss a game that Cooper Kupp ready to go for, fine. I think I'd rather play it safe with Kupp.
Paul, looking at some players that are must starts this week, who would you put at the top of your list as a must start because of their matchup this weekend?
Well, I mean, Justin Jefferson is obviously great every week, and he's got a pretty solid set of matchups against Kansas City, which what looks like a very high scoring game. Other side of the table, Patrick Mahomes is my number one ranked quarterback. So, I mean, those are some obvious guys. Christian McCaffrey's obviously the number one running back. So, I mean, those are all guys that I'm not telling listeners anything they don't know. Mm-hmm. Start Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Oh, thanks, Charge. That's really helpful.
And for, players that are, you have to sit them because of their matchups this week. Who do you think is a bad matchup this weekend?
Yeah. Now, that's where it gets a little bit trickier, right? Is, who can you trust? Who do you not necessarily trust? A couple of guys that I'm worried about, Calvin Ridley with his decreasing snap count, decreasing balls coming his direction, and then at Buffalo. Now, Buffalo did just lose Tre'Davious White, elite level cornerback, and that's always something to consider here. But guy that's been going the wrong direction for several weeks worries me a little bit. Nico Collins has been very good, and I like a lot of what I've seen. Falcons, though, have a sneaky good secondary, and they've got one really good cornerback, AJ Terrell, and he usually shadows the best receiver on the other team, and that's clearly become Nico Collins. So this might be a little bit of a trickier matchup for Nico Collins, who's otherwise looked really nice, and I think there's been a lot to like about him, but this is still plenty of question marks about that offense in totality. Although, really, let me ask you guys this: could anybody win that division, the AFC South? Including Houston?
I would say right now, looking at it, yes.
I think so too. I mean, right now, we thought Puka Nacua was going to run away with offensive rookie of the year. He still might. But how about CJ Stroud?
Oh my gosh, incredible!
Ever quarterback, history of the NFL, with 1,200 passing yards and no interceptions in his first 4 career games. and the Texans have put 8 offensive linemen on injury reserve.
Wow. That's crazy. Paul Charchian is with us right now, guillotineleagues.com. And Paul Charchian will join us each and every week here as we get ready this week for week 5 of the NFL. Brock Purdy, among fantasy quarterback starters, ranks where at this point? Like, how elite is Purdy at this point, fantasy-wise?
So the frustrating part is Christian McCaffrey is sweeping up all the touchdowns.
Sure.
And so Purdy's only got 5 touchdowns in 4 games, but he's played way better than that. And I think in time, it's going to start evening out a little bit. I mean, McCaffrey, I don't know, as awesome as he is, he's probably not going to maintain a clip of like 2.5 touchdowns a game. So, if we look at Purdy, I think there's a misperception that he's a weak-armed dink and dunk passer in the vein of his predecessor, Jimmy Garoppolo, and that he's a product of this Kyle Shanahan offense that just plugs and plays quarterback. But the dude's pretty special. I mean, right now, he's got the second longest ADOT, average distance of throw, at 9.1 yards. Second longest, 2 yards deeper than Patrick Mahomes. And usually when you've got these long passers have got low completion percentages because the long passes obviously are harder to complete. But not Brock Purdy. He's third in completion percentage at 72%. So the guys, he's doing it all. He's got all these valuable targets. Now this week, tricky matchup with Dallas, and I'll ask you if your thinking is along my thinking. Yes, Dallas is a good defense, but how elite are they when they faced Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, Josh Dobbs, and Mac Jones?
We'll find out.
Find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
I mean, they're good, but are they as elite as they look? I think you can still start Purdy. He's my number 12 ranked quarterback, so I think he's still startable.
Paul, where can we find out more information for our listeners? I know you're doing this each and every week with us here on Jon and Jim, but for our listeners that are looking for more as we kick off week 5, where should they go?
All my player rankings available for free, guillotineleagues.com. You can still join a Guillotine League if you'd like to. You guys can join a Guillotine League if you'd like to. New leagues forming every week. 14 weeks left in the season, so you can join a 14-person Guillotine League today.
All right. Check him out. Charge. Again, great insight as we kick off week 5 tonight. Commanders and Bears, the game that the nation is talking about. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Commanders and Bears. Brent's got his Bears cap on.
Commanders and Bears and
oh my. You're right. You're not kidding. Oh my. All right. What can the Padres learn from the Mets? That's right. What can the Padres learn from the lowly New York Mets? That's coming up next.
Interested to hear what you have to say.
Stay with us on Jon and Jim. The Padres can learn something from the Mets, honestly, and that's next. All right. So another day where you're looking around baseball and like, oh, it's interesting that this organization is going about it this way, and the Padres elected to go a different direction. And I'll use the example of what happened with the Mets today. Billy Epler was their GM before he resigned today because David Stearns, formerly highly sought after executive of the Milwaukee Brewers, was hired as the president of baseball operations. Where the Padres went wrong, you always say in 2021, they should have just gotten rid of AJ Preller.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the issue was not whether they kept him or got rid of him, it was elevating him. And the second they elevated Preller from GM to president of baseball operations, they took away any possibility of someone overseeing, being the front man for baseball operations. The Mets had Billy Epler as GM. That gave them an out to get out from Billy Epler by hiring over top him. The Padres don't have that avenue. They could hire underneath AJ Preller right now with a GM. We've argued that probably won't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mets were more bold. They hired the best available executive. They thought that was David Stearns. Epler, to his credit, says, I'm getting out of the way. You can have a clean slate. It's your organization as president of baseball operations, not mine. That can't happen in San Diego because of what Peter Seidler elected to do a couple of years ago, which was elevate AJ Preller. And now that card's out of the deck for the Padres moving forward.
So the only thing that everybody in this town can do is have the hope card. That's
or complain.
Or complain. I mean, we can complain. I can complain for you.
Oh, no doubt.
But if you're a fan, you kind of just have to take it. Like, you just have to say, all right, well, no matter how much losing this franchise does, no matter how many reports of dysfunction, even though they say there's no dysfunction, everything is totally fine. They're best buddies. Where they're going to have pina coladas later in the off season. But all you can do as a fan is just now sit there and say, all right, I hope they're better. I hope, because they haven't had a proven track record. So I got to sit here and I got to just hope that next year, whoever's on this team, they play better and they win. That's all you can do. Just hope. Hope. Because that's what they're playing. Well, we look at all these numbers and we see that we should have been much better, and we had a bunch of down years, and we had the best one of the best run differentials in baseball. So we should be better. So we're going to chalk this up as to, all right, just go into next season and make a little tweak here and there. And hopefully we're better, because that will solve all of our problems, and it will solve all of the drama behind the scenes, even though we claim there's no drama, and maybe there isn't any drama. But guess what? If we just win, who cares if we don't like each other? Who cares if there's drama in the clubhouse? Just win, baby. That's all that matters.
Well, I agree with that. If they actually win, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
The issue is they have to win.
That's the issue.
That's the issue. Now, I would say this, like, I'm not saying Billy Epler is the right man to run the organization. I have no clue. I know he was interviewed along with Preller 9 or 10 years ago. But what I am saying is, even the idea of bringing in an executive of the caliber of Epler doesn't exist in this current iteration where Preller is overseeing. Because you could make an argument, if Preller was still the GM, we'll go hire a president of baseball operations. And maybe that's someone like Billy Epler, a San Diegan. But in this dynamic, if Epler is out of New York because he doesn't want to get in the way of David Stearns, then an executive of the caliber of Epler is not coming to San Diego to, quote unquote, get in the way of AJ Preller. So it's like they've put themselves in a corner because they claim they want to mold their organization and they want smart people in the room. But can you get a smart person in the room if that person is working for AJ Preller?
There will never be accountability unless for AJ Preller, unless he is fired by Peter Seidler. That's it. There's no accountability there. No matter how many times this team has losing years, or how many times they missed a postseason, or how many times they don't win a division or not win a World Series or go to a World Series, doesn't matter. There's no accountability for AJ. The only person that can do it is Peter, and Peter believes in AJ more than life itself. So good luck. Good luck. You're getting Preller, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. You're getting AJ Preller for as long as he's going to be under contract, potentially longer if they give him a contract extension, if they happen to, fall into winning in the next couple of years or so. And you're going to get AJ for as long as Peter wants it. And that's it. That's the only person that can hold him accountable.
I do wonder what happens if 2024 is like 2023. I mean, maybe Preller's back in 2025.
Like, believe me, I want this team to win next year. I do not want to be sitting here on August 5th next season,
October 5th
next season, talking about what the hell happened with the season. No chance in hell. Me and you, we need to be downtown or wherever the case may be, covering a playoff game and talking about, the rotation and everything involved with just on the field baseball stuff. But there's a part of me that, like, I want to see truly if they happen to lose next year, like you said, like, what would happen? Like, I want to go in that alternate universe and just be like, all right, let me see a scenario where they lose, where it's like this year, they go 83-79 and they miss out by a couple games, right? And I want to see if AJ's truly going to be held accountable, or is it again just another manager? We didn't do what our jobs right, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even want to your point, it's like, do we really want to fast forward a year, go through that, and then have nothing happen again?
Yeah.
I just prefer that they actually win
in
2024. And if they do that, then AJ Preller will probably be extended.
Yeah.
Probably. And if they don't, and if they go 83-79, he could very well still be here in 2025.
So that is literally the scenario we're sitting in. We all want them to win. But if they win, guess what? More Preller.
Yeah, but again, if they win, you can stomach it. Like, the whole point is to win.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. But can he maintain consistent winning? That's been the question that he has not been able
and
to
nobody can answer. Unfortunately, you can't answer that probably in 2024.
No.
Since it's just 1 year. All right, on the other side, we're going to get to the wrap. Still ahead, your chance to win. We've got tickets to Avenged Sevenfold Saturday night. North Island Credit Union Amphitheater will give those away in the 4 o'clock hour. If you missed our conversation with Jesse Rogers from ESPN, we'll play that back for you coming up at 5:30 as well. But hour 2 of Jon and Jim, that's next. Hey guys, it's Schaefer. I've been telling you all about our friends over at Windmill Farms, the college area's natural grocer. Get ready for your weekend. Get ready for everything you need. All your game day needs this weekend. They've got organic farm fresh produce and meats, an amazing beer selection, really an incredible craft beer selection. They've got this full deli as well, whether it's the work week, whether it's the weekend. Make sure to pick up a sandwich from their deli. They've got award-winning sandwiches. Pick up a sandwich card, get your 8th sandwich free. They have incredible ingredients, and they keep their prices low as well. They're centrally located right off of Del Cerro Boulevard, across the freeway from Montezuma Mesa. Windmill Farms is your family-owned market. They've been serving the San Diego area for 20 plus years. Visit windmillfarmsmarket.com. There you're going to see their weekly specials. Again, windmillfarmsmarket.com. And a reminder, like we always tell you, you got to shop local. Shop at Windmill Farms.
All right, this update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Bob Melvin confirmed today to Bernie Wilson of the AP that he will return in 2024 to manage the Padres. Everything is fine with him and AJ Preller. They are best buddies. Baseball playoffs, wild card round is done. All teams got a sweep. The only upset of the wild card round was the D-backs sweeping the Brewers. D-backs will now take on the Dodgers in the divisional round. Phillies versus the Braves. Twins versus the Astros. Rangers versus the Orioles. Thursday Night Football Week 5 kicks off tonight as the Bears take on the Commanders. And sad news, breaking news just moments ago, has been reported that Bears legend and Hall of Famer Dick Butkus has passed away at the age of 80. Owning a Mercedes-Benz EV isn't just extraordinary, it's extra easy with full remote access to your vehicle from your phone via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicles are all electric. The feelings is all Mercedes. The choice is all yours. Learn more at mbusa.com/EQ.
All right, San Diego and Southern California. If you missed the news earlier, not just Preller back, Melvin confirming to the AP. He also will be back for 2024. Peter Seidler wasn't kidding when he said the leadership would return. And he had full faith in the leadership group of the Padres. Peter Seidler confirming again, AJ Preller will be back. Bob Melvin will be back 2024 for the San Diego Padres.
Do you think that Eric Grupner, AJ Preller, and Bob Melvin all at the end of Monday's meeting were sitting there like saying we're the three best friends that anybody could have? We're the three best friends that anybody could have. We're the three best friends that anybody could have. And nobody can take that away from us.
I would love to know what that conversation was like and who else was there. The member from Peter's equity team?
Uh-huh.
What was that conversation like?
I don't know.
Apparently it wasn't that bad because
Apparently
they're all back.
They're running it back,
much
baby.
of a blow up.
I think I'm wondering to myself, did the 14-2 finish have anything to do with their decision to run it back?
I don't think so. Because even Preller yesterday in his year-end whatever is like the record's the record. I mean, he did,
but imagine if they finished the season 2-14.
That wouldn't have been great. No, that wouldn't have been great. Maybe 2-14 would have been different. But what if they went like 8-6?
Then they're under 500. And then the optics of everything.
I don't know. Maybe we'll never know.
I would say maybe, Jim, if they change something. If there's something with those two with their relationship that changed like right before that streak started to where, maybe AJ just did less micromanaging or just did something that changed where all of a sudden they're like, hey, see, when you guys aren't at each other's throats, this works a lot better. And then maybe that's
those reports of dysfunction and, not getting along
was before the 14-2
was
run.
In the middle of the 14-2
run. It started it. Kevin's article came out the day the 14-2 stretch
that was on
started.
Manny. That was on Manny. It wasn't on Bob and
That was
Preller.
on dysfunction.
Well, yeah.
That was the most damning piece, correct me if I'm wrong, of the 16 days or the last 16 games of the season was Kevin's piece.
But that was specifically
anonymous.
That was on Manny. That was not.
But he tried to. Okay, fair. I said the same thing. If we read through it, it'd be like, this isn't about Manny. This is about the organization.
Well, it's about the clubhouse dynamic.
Right.
Not the relationship between Preller and Melvin.
I think Dennis later. and Ken furthered that story.
Yeah. And then AC double reaffirmed that story.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't, but it has some, it makes me wonder, like, okay, they kind of went into the offseason Like it was a bumpy ride all year long. Engine failure. They like just, hey, we're going down. But as they were going down, they kind of leveled it out. They landed the plane. The plane is a disaster. It's all messed up, but they landed it. And it wasn't this bumpy finish that we all kind of maybe expected after watching this team for 5 months. So with that, I'm wondering, did it play any role in look what we could do? We went 14-2 with majority of the core. Like, we can do this.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that played any role.
Maybe. I mean, honestly, to like AJ's credit yesterday, he didn't really go down that path. He didn't spend a lot of time on the finish. He may have mentioned it, but he didn't spend a lot of time on the, hey, we finished strong, and that's who we're going to be in 2024.
Well, he did mention that. He
referenced it one time.
I know.
But it wasn't, he said, disappointing, lost season.
Yeah.
We are who our record is. Didn't say that because we lost close games. That was just bad luck. He, in fact, said that's not the case. I believe you are what your record says you are. He said 82-80. You're right. Maybe then they would have been 77 and 85 or whatever if they didn't go 14-2 down the stretch.
Because optics, I do think, matter. Like, you can now tout, and it's a factual statement, even though me and you are like, give me a break. They have had back-to-back winning seasons. As stupid as that sounds, after this year, they have technically had back-to-back winning seasons with an NLCS run in there.
Yeah, it's amazing again, that's why I always say there are two sides to spin. And I don't disagree with what you say a lot. Like, Preller hasn't had a 90-win season. Okay, but he's had an 89. Oh, he's had 3 managers in 5 years. Yeah, but he's had 3 and 10. You can go both ways on it. They can be spun both ways. And again, truth, probably in between. Is he this, oh my gosh, reckless GM that just spends and has had no ability to win?
Yeah.
I don't think that's fully true. Is he this rock star GM that all he does is win and he's the future of the game? I don't think that's true.
One thing, though, that is definitive that can never be spun as of right now, no matter what you say, they have 0 World Series.
Well,
they
but that's not just Preller,
titles.
and that's not just Seidler, and that's not just Melvin. That's 60 years.
In the time of Preller.
No, in the time of the organization.
Oh, I know. I'm just talking about Preller's time here. I'm not talking about the organization.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, he hasn't done any worse than what they tried beforehand. Now, they've spent more to be in the same spot. That's fair.
But he also hasn't done any better.
Agreed. And that's why we're left shaking our heads. Like, what is the direction? What's the course? What's next?
I just think fans are kind of sitting there wanting, and I could be wrong, but just some type of feeling of knowing that the organization thought this season, like, this can't happen. Like, it was pretty definitive after 2021 of the feeling of the organization of this cannot happen again. This was a failure.
1 in 100 year collapse.
Right. After this year, I'm kind of feeling like the organization's like, look, we didn't hit our mark, didn't hit our goal, but feel good about everything. We're bringing everybody back, and we'll try to get them next year.
And this is the part where Peter's health, and of course, that's way more of a priority than winning 87 games as opposed to 82.
For sure.
But that's where, like, Peter in 2021 was very outspoken is the wrong word, but he was very public at the end of the season. He went out of his way to speak with print, radio, and other media outlets about the disappointment. Well, he's not in that position right now because of his health.
Right.
Therefore, it was AJ Preller that spoke. Maybe we'll hear from Eric Rupner. We didn't hear from Bob Melvin, but he's spoken on the record here today.
He's in Europe or something.
So it has a little bit of a different feel than 2021, but I wonder if some of that is just because of the health status of Peter, where he's unavailable to speak on the organization's behalf.
Because the fan base is rightfully so after this year pissed the F off. Like, dude, you guys, what the hell?
Are you sensing it, though, like this tidal wave of pitchforks are out? This has to change. I'm only feeling it to some extent. Like, everyone was disappointed all year long. Now the season has come to an end. These guys are back. Is there this tidal wave of outrage?
Every single person that has called our show in the last 4 days has said that they want AJ Preller fired.
But I mean, you're on social and more than I am.
Yeah.
You see a tidal wave of outrage? I don't.
I see a good amount.
I see some. I think it's actually been relatively quiet this week. That's what I see.
Because,
don't you? It's like, okay.
No,
like the reaction yesterday when Preller was back and he said Melvin was going to return was like,
Well, you know what I think it is Padres fans, and we are too, like, very used to what happened yesterday.
Maybe
it is a numbing feeling to listen to him speak.
Maybe.
And so how can there be outrage over seeing the same thing over and over and over again? And it's just a giant eye roll.
Yeah, I buy that.
You're like, like how much, like at some point you just kind of not give up, but you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, dude, I'm not even going to waste my time getting upset about this because it's never going to change. Like that is what I feel like Padres fans are feeling today, along with other things. Like I'm sure if you want to look at it one way, like it sucks that Preller's back, but hey, at least Bob's back because that's what we wanted. And I'm sure there's a lot of other fans that are like, well, I didn't want either of them back, or they wanted Bob gone, even though I think that's a very minority group of fans out there that wanted Bob gone. But it's like, okay, if we get Bob back, we want that, and we'll take it if it means Preller has to come back too.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm putting myself like in the shoes of, like, if this wasn't the Padres and there was another team in baseball that had similar goals and aspirations. Yeah, and it's hard to compare yourself to, like, Padres aren't the Yankees, and that's fine. They don't, and it's San Diego's not New York City, and that's a good thing. They're not all teams are created equally, nor are they all the same. Obviously, there'd be outcry in New York if they were supposed to win 100 games and they won 80 and missed out.
There is, because that's exactly what happened there. And I know it's different, Jon, but it's exactly what happened there. They missed the postseason. They finished almost in last place in the AL East. They completely underperformed. They have one of the highest payrolls in all of baseball. And guess what?
They're running it back.
They're running it back.
Yeah. Now, again, their
GMs
also won, 3 or 4 titles.
But yeah, and there's also a different standard there of just because he's won 3 or 4 titles, what you say is, well, he hasn't won since
2009. All right. On the other side, again, still your chance to win these Avenged Sevenfold tickets. We'll do that later this hour. Trainwreck Radio, Avenged Sevenfold, Saturday night, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. Keep listening this hour for your chance to win. And right now, let's get to this.
Which divisional series are you most looking forward to in the baseball playoffs?
For me, it's easy. It's the Phillies Braves, because we're gonna see because Philly has momentum right now. Now it's just 2 games, but that's good against the Marlins, and the atmosphere in Philadelphia. I don't know if you saw it last night. I tweeted about it. It was
the Grand Slam,
but it was with no commentary. It was just a crowd. It was crazy there. It just reminded me of last year at Petco Park. That to me is like, okay, can the Phillies actually repeat what they did last year and go on a run? Because they're kind of like a playoff built team. So we'll see.
I think it's the best series. I agree. I think it's Phillies Braves. And I know we talked about it yesterday, and not to harp on it, no pun intended, but the more that the Phillies win in the postseason and the less that the Padres get to the postseason or win in the postseason, the more you kind of look at the Harper Machado offseason and you're like, wow, that was a really, really consequential offseason. Now, again, the Phillies haven't won a World Series with Bryce Harper, but they've been in one, and who knows what happens this year.
Hindsight is a beautiful thing.
It really is. Next question.
Guys, the Bay Area will receive a WNBA expansion team in 2025. Would you like to see a WNBA franchise in San Diego?
Well, here's the thing. The Warriors are the ones that brought the WNBA team there. I think it was like a $50 million expansion fee or whatever. And so Joe Lacob and Peter Guber of the Warriors are the owners of the WNBA team. Like, that's their team. They're going to play at Chase and everything. So who would do that here in San Diego is my question.
And also, where would they play?
Right. Would I like more professional sports here? Yeah. But there's nobody here to even do that. So,
well, I think there's actually, listen, Joe Tsai, the San Diegan, is absolutely someone that would be capable of bringing a WNBA team to San Diego. But where's your facility? Until they renovate the sports arena, that's an issue. Now you got a brand new arena in North County that's going to be complete next year. You have Viejas Arena, where San Diego State plays. To your point, I'd like to see more professional sports in San Diego as well. It just feels like San Diego's always a bit of an afterthought in these conversations. And again, there's a difference between the Chase Center and the sports arena.
Chase Center is like one of the
most
expensive arenas, most forward-thinking, technologically advanced arenas,
just like the sports arena.
Country. Yeah, just like the sports arena.
And it'll be filled a third full. So
we'll see. Maybe. Next question.
If they're lucky. Do you give the Bears a puncher's chance against the Commanders on Thursday Night Football?
Now, are they on the road?
Yes.
Bears on the road.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the NFL. I give them a puncher's chance. It's not like the Commanders or the 49ers or the Cowboys or the Eagles.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, yeah, I give them a puncher's chance.
I can't believe it's a 6-point line. I definitely think there's a puncher's chance. I figured Washington at home against the lowly Bears would be like 9-10 point favorites because the Bears are so incredibly bad. But what does it say about Washington if they're a home 6-point favorite against the Bears? I think it'll be a very good game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears won. Next question.
Who's going to manage the Padres in 2025? There's a lot of 2025 news today.
Yeah, there is, isn't there?
I'm gonna say not. I'm gonna say anybody, not Bob Melvin. I don't know who, but it won't be Bob Melvin.
So you're taking the field.
The field. Okay,
yeah.
I agree. I don't think it'll be Bob Melvin. I think this is a little bit of the last dance without the payoff the previous decade, where the Bulls had won 5 of 7. Of course, they didn't win when Jordan stepped away. It feels to me last dance-ish to some extent here because, I mean, Melvin signed a 3-year deal. And Preller, it's been a little rocky, has it not, the last 9 years? So to me, it feels like 2024, it is like a moment in time. We've talked about it. You're not going to have Soto potentially in 2025. You're not going to have Snell and Hader for 2024 probably. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if Bob Melvin was back in 2025. I would take the field as well.
Because if you're Bob and maybe one of the things you were thinking about, like, okay, this is why I'm going to return is because this is my last year. And I want to win now. And do I have a better chance of winning with the Giants' horrible roster?
Exactly.
Or the Mets' horrible roster? Or the Padres' not so horrible roster?
Right.
Like, where do I have a better chance of winning next year?
It's true.
If next year is truly going to be my final year managing.
And then 2025, as a free agent manager, potentially, maybe there's a better spot to land.
And if they do well next year, maybe he gets a contract offer from the Padres and we'll go from there.
I would think so. I mean,
or maybe he just says, look, I don't want a contract extension because I'm done after this season.
Maybe. I always thought it was going to be like a 3-year deal when he signed on, and I thought they'd potentially win at a high level. I mean, there's a lot of optimism when they hired Bob Melvin. You knew what roster they had. Mm-hmm. Then they traded for Juan Soto. That was the high point of optimism. You're a good team. You get Juan Soto. AJ Preller's quote is saying 3 playoff runs is why we did it. It wasn't 2. Well, it turns out it's 2 at the most.
Yeah,
because of this year. All right, 2 at the most. So that was the high point for me in this decade of the Padres. Was the trade deadline of 2022? Thinking about what was in front of
NLCS run.
I mean, that was the most optimism at that point. Like anything was in front of them, and yeah, they got to the National League Championship Series, and then from there, obviously, the last year has been disappointing. Can they recapture it in 2024? And what's that going to mean for Bob Melvin? It'll be interesting to find out.
It will be. It's just okay. I guess nothing is wrong. Everything is fine. Let's just sweep this season under the rug. It was a lost year and it was disappointing, but hey, we have a lot of high hopes for next season. Like, okay, fine. Just completely take away the expectations that were for this year, which were the highest it's ever been for your franchise, the most money you've ever spent, and act like nothing about it was wrong.
There's a little bit of that feel. I do agree with that. And of course, the only way you weren't going to feel that way is if they made real change, if it involved potentially the general manager. So I agree. I think there's a lot of people that do feel that way. Now that we're beyond those moves, really a question is going to become, how do they formulate a roster that performs better than the roster performed in 2023? And I don't know the answer to it. And I'm not going to go into 2024, regardless of what they do, as not landing Shohei Ohtani, telling you they're going to win 99 games. Because it seems like that's going to be a bit of a challenge, and they haven't done it under AJ Preller, and they're going to have to prove it on field to us in 2024. And I hope they get off to a lot better start in 2024 than they did in 2023.
And pressure for this team this year, they failed miserably at it. And just wait till next season, guys. Just wait until next season. You think the pressure is not going to be at an all-time high, right? It will be. It 100% will be. Just because you guys sucked this year and missed the postseason with a $250 million payroll doesn't mean that expectations change the following year. No.
No, I agree. I think the expectations are going to be really high because this fan base has been really good.
And the first 3-game losing streak that this team has next year, if they start the season,
there's not going to be a 3-game losing streak, Jim.
Oh, that's right. They're going to win 140
if they just
games.
avoid the 3-game losing streak, it's not going to be a factor.
Well, they avoided the 3-game winning streak this year.
Exactly. The 4-game. You're right.
Yeah. I'm telling you, dude, the start of next season, fans are going to be watching this team like crazy.
Like hawks.
And it's going to be every game will feel like the end of the world if they lose, because the first thing that fans will go to is, dude, look what happened last year at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. Everyone said it was early. Manny Machado talking down to fans like, you better jump on the bandwagon now when we start effing raking. And look what happened. No way, if you're a fan out there, that I feel like they're going to look at next year at the start of the season, if they lose a couple games in a row or they're under 500 for the first 2 weeks of the season, as something that's going to be okay and early.
Yeah. But don't get swept in Korea. I don't want to imagine the week between the Korea series and then the
starting your season
real opening day. Don't start 0-2 in
Fire
Korea.
Everybody.
All right. Why did Colin Cowherd today call Kyle Shanahan the world's best wingman?
What?
You're going to hear from the herd. Colin Cowherd on the other side. Plus, this hour, your chance to win tickets to see Avenged Sevenfold Saturday night at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Jesse Rogers, ESPN. If you missed him earlier, you'll hear that coming up at 5:30 as well. Stay with us on Jon and Jim.
He's like single-handedly funny in our
JD Gaucho. I didn't really get it. JD Gaucho, thank you, man, for the super chat, guys. If you want to contribute to the channel, do so by clicking the $ below the chat box. For all of your super chats that are breaks, JD Gaucho, loyal viewer and supporter. So thank you, man. He wants to know if any of us, all right, including Brad, Jon, Jim, Brent, have ever met Colin Cowherd. Let me answer it first. No.
I've talked to him over the phone.
Have you? When was that? Mark and Rich?
Yeah, we had him on the show.
When the show started, right?
Yeah. And I talked to him over the phone. That was it.
Let me ask Brent. Brent, question on via Super Chat. Have you ever met Colin Cowherd or talked to him on the phone? Brent says no.
There you go.
Have we met anyone in that space, like a Radio Row setting?
Yeah.
We were with Pat McAfee.
Hanging out with Pat.
Like, we were right by his set.
Yeah. Damn, that was hard.
You met him? Okay. All right. Thank you, JD Gacho. Again, if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe. Year-round content for San Diego sports fans. Thank you for the super chats. We'll answer those at the break. Click the $sign below the chat box. We'll be back in a moment. Thanks, guys. All right, Colin Cowherd calling Kyle Shanahan the world's best wingman. He'll explain in his own words next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Bob Melvin confirming today to Bernie Wilson of the AP that he will return to manage the Padres for the 2024 season, and him and AJ Preller are essentially best buddies. Moving over to baseball playoffs, all the wild card games were sweeps. Rangers, Twins, Phillies, and D-backs all moving on to the divisional round. D-backs will take on the Dodgers, Phillies, and Braves, Twins, Astros, and Rangers and Orioles. Those division games get underway on Saturday. And football tonight, week 5 kicks off. 5:15 kickoff between the Bears and Commanders. And sad news today in the NFL is Bears legend and Hall of Famer Dick Butkus has passed away at the age of 80. Owning a Mercedes-Benz EV isn't just extraordinary, it's extra easy with full remote access to your vehicle from your phone via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes. The choice is all yours. Learn more at mbusa.com/EQ.
All right, curveball on the giveaway for Trainwreck Radio. All right.
I like a curveball.
All right, this is going to be a knuckle, in fact.
Oh, okay.
And what we're going to do coming up in 15 minutes is give away these tickets we have for Bellator MMA's historic 300th card, which is going to be Saturday night, Pechanga Arena, San Diego. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com. So we've got a pair of free tickets for that coming up this hour. Do not call now. We'll let you know when to call. We'll do it for trivia. Trainwreck Radio later this hour. Your chance to win those Bellator MMA 300th card tickets. Pechanga Arena, San Diego, Saturday night. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com. Have you ever called Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the Niners, the world's best wingman?
No.
This is why Colin Cowherd is hosting a solo show 9 to noon and you're not.
Darn it.
That's right.
I want to hear this.
I know you do, right?
Wingman? I don't understand his analogy. Let's play it.
Okay.
What do you have to say, Brent?
Colin Cowherd, Kyle Shanahan, Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys as well. Take a listen.
Kyle Shanahan, you've heard the term J-Mac wingman. Kyle Shanahan, Niners coach, is the world's best wingman. He talks you up. He makes you look great. He never takes any of the credit. Yeah, I like Brock Purdy. It's obvious he was underdrafted. Puka Nacua, wide receiver, Rams. He was underdrafted by about 3 rounds. George Kittle on the Niners, 5th round, going to be a Hall of Famer, undrafted. Max Crosby for the Raiders, great player, underdrafted. Kurt Warner and Antonio Gates, the tight end, were not drafted at all. So there's about 15 guys a year, maybe not quite that many, maybe it's 10, 12, that you look at them and you think, you know what, they should have gone a round or 2 earlier. But there's also guys, probably double that should have gone later. We can all agree that Brock Purdy was underdrafted. But I have no idea what he would look like in Carolina. Nobody can get open. Arizona, New York Giants. I don't love Daniel Jones, but he doesn't have a ton to work with. Puka Nacua, the receiver for the Rams. I love him, but he's got Matt Stafford and Sean McVay's schemes. How would he do with Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada with the Steelers? Not as good. 2 things can be true, and it happens all the time. A player is seriously undrafted and also is benefiting greatly from what's around him. And I think the greatest example of this over the last half decade has been Dak Prescott. He was underdrafted, a 4th-round quarterback. His rookie year, he went 13-3. But you know what about that 13-3? The Cowboys had a top 5 defense, a Hall of Fame tight end, the number 2 rated offensive line, and Zeke was arguably the best running back in the NFL, and Dak got some MVP votes. Since then, the offensive line has aged greatly. They only have one go-to wide receiver. The tight end is not only not a Hall of Famer, probably a 2 or a 3, and Tony Pollard is not Zeke in his prime. And in the last 8 years, Dak's got 2 playoff wins. Dak was underdrafted, and Dak needs all sorts of people around him to really play at the highest of levels, and that's okay. 2 things can be true for both the quarterbacks in the biggest game of the week, Niners, Cowboys, both underdrafted. Both need elements to be great.
Are we done?
Thoughts?
Okay, so
better take than I've heard out of your mouth recently.
So, well, my initial reaction hearing that is kind of the same feeling I get when I listen to AJ Preller talk.
Oh, wow, look at this spin, this localized spin.
Because he was going one way, and he's like, "Yeah, Kyle." I still don't understand why he thinks Kyle Shanahan's a wingman. And
then he's making these other people look good, and they're not as good as they would be without him.
And then, well, that's not a wingman. That's like the pilot.
It is.
That's a wingman.
I mean, that
they make other people look
He's
good.
not talking about someone that flies a plane.
He's talking about like at the bar.
Wait, I don't think he's a wingman. I think he's like the captain of the ship.
Well, why don't you call Colin?
I will actually. I'll tell him.
Because he doesn't know what he's doing, apparently.
He doesn't.
Hosting a solo show for 20 years, making more than we'll ever make in 1 year.
I think Jim just admitted he's a horrible wingman.
But wait, bring this home to Preller. And now I'm curious.
No, I just listened to that, and I just the same thought was like, wait, what are you talking about? Like what?
Wait, so you hear Colin talk for 2.5 minutes, and your thought is, what are you talking about? And that's what you think when you hear AJ Preller talk?
Yes.
They were not the same. Preller's press conference yesterday was not the same as Colin's take.
No, it's not the same. Preller can't finish the sentence, and Colin can. But the mindset of like, wait, what am I listening to?
Right, okay.
That's how I felt right there.
I liked his way of tying together the Niners and the Cowboys. He's saying Dak, underdrafted, Purdy, underdrafted. If not in those spots, by the way, they might not be near as good. That's always the argument in the NFL. If you put Purdy, name a spot that's been a train wreck for 20 years.
The
in
Bears.
Cleveland or in Chicago, would it work? And maybe it would. Maybe it would, but there's no guarantee. It's like you get the additional ammunition when you're in the right spot. Like the offense for Dallas has been good. That's been beneficial for Dak. And Kyle Shanahan's a really good offensive coach.
So, okay.
So he's really good wingman.
He's making Brock Purdy. He's making Brock Purdy look better than he is.
A little bit of that. And also, he's propping Purdy up.
Without taking any credit for it.
Correct.
That's what a good wingman does. See,
Jim
my
is
friends
a-
are horrible wingmen.
I can't deal with you.
Maybe Brock's just like a good quarterback, and he's in the perfect system, and Kyle Shanahan's a good coach.
That's fair.
Okay. I don't.
What would Colin say about Preller? The chat wants to know.
Does he even know
that baseball exists?
Honest question: does he know who AJ Preller? If I said Colin, who is the general manager of the Padres? Do you think he can name AJ Preller?
No. Well, and by the way, he shouldn't have to. He's not his one time he talks about baseball a year is when Fox has the game.
Right.
It'll be like All-Star game. Hey, Shohei Ohtani's starting. World Series. Braves Astros. Cool.
And by the way, if Kyle Shanahan all he does is make quarterbacks look great, what happened when he had the Brian Hoyers of the world and the Nick Mullins of the world and all the quarterbacks before Jimmy Garoppolo? And every time Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, every quarterback that played for him they lost.
Wait, are you saying Kyle Shanahan actually isn't just a proper upper? Like he can't make everyone look good.
You have to have good players.
Yeah, I don't think he's saying Brock Purdy isn't good. I think he's saying maybe he's better than he would be if he wasn't with Kyle Shanahan.
I think Brock Purdy, the system fits him so well,
right,
that he's playing to his strengths. Like Kyle is making sure that he plays to his strengths all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he's doing that, he's getting success and he's learning more. And the more you play, the more things you learn and the more defenses you can understand better. And then you can start saying, hey, dude, it's not me. I didn't do it. Like Brock's a good player and we have a really good system. But hey, I guess he's a wingman.
Why are you so offended by this? He was saying good things about him.
No. I'm not offended. I think I'm just like, I listen to it. I'm like, wait, so we brought in like Puka Nakua and Dead Dak, and you're like, what is happening here?
Brent, thank you. Brent is shaking his head no. The issue, I'm going to say this in front of your face, since we have the issue with you
is I don't listen.
You don't listen. And the other thing is like, you only listen to part of it. You only listen to part of it. Because I watched you and you were on your phone. You were talking to me. You were talking to Brent.
So I'm like, how long is this? What are we doing here?
Jim, you literally will talk 4.5 straight minutes about the Warriors or AJ Preller. It was 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
I know.
It's Colin Cowherd. He's heard on the station from 9 to noon.
What? I can't say that I listen to something. I'm like, I don't know.
You can say that.
That's what I just did.
Someone help me. Call right now if you want these Bellator MMA tickets. Okay. This is coming up Saturday night. We have a pair of tickets to see 4 world championship fights. Headline Bellator MMA's historic 300th card. It's right here at Pechanga Arena, San Diego. Saturday night. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com. The number to call, first 2 callers will be our contestants, by the way, for sports trivia or just trivia. Trainwreck Radio. Call right now, 844-570-1360. 844-570-1360. First 2 callers will be our contestants. We can take a break where I can go get a drink of water or leave. Thankfully, I'm calling a high school football game tonight.
Thankfully.
Okay. Stay with us. Trainwreck Radio, if it isn't already, is next. On the other side, we'll get to Trainwreck Radio, plus Dave Roberts weighing in on roster construction and money spent. Does it equate to winning or not? You'll hear it at 5 p.m. Dave Roberts has chimed in on roster construction.
Oh yeah,
General manager
from Dave Roberts.
Manager Dave Roberts.
What took so long?
Yeah, of course. Know. Now that the Padres are out, Dave Roberts wants to weigh in.
He's that guy, the greedy little Dodgers. We're making our way to a potential World Series.
Right. So let me chime in on the Padres.
Right.
Was it last year? Remember before the season started, Dan Patrick's like, "Hey, Dave, you hoping to have a good year? I guarantee we win the World Series.
We win the whole thing."
Jeez, like relax, Dave. Like I was just asking, like, do you think you have a nice year?
Like, who are you supposed to be? Don LaGreca?
Oh gosh. Epic rant. You're gonna hear tomorrow.
Yeah.
On Jon and Jim. Okay, we have Trainwreck Radio. By the way, next hour we have more giveaways for you. Okay, so we're gonna do more giveaways next hour. So this hour we're doing the Bellator MMA tickets. Next hour we're doing the Avenged Sevenfold tickets. We have two pairs to Avenged Sevenfold. We'll do that.
Let's go
in the 5 o'clock hour. I feel like Trainwreck Radio has been a bit of a train wreck this week. Has it?
Like, what do you mean?
More than no? Yeah, the show definitely. But I mean, like this segment. Has it been more of a train wreck than normal or not?
Sure. About the usual. We did have that one day where nobody got a question right until like the last one.
We actually, so real quick story. When we were at AleSmith for the Aztecs pregame, I apologize. I forget his name.
Oh, that was amazing.
He came up to us. Brent, you would remember this.
This is so
Remember the day when we had both callers on and it made like our top thing of the year and you couldn't hear and they were
they were talking and none of it was talking sense.
So one of the contestants on that very show came up to us and was talking to us like, dude,
I was the contestant.
I was the guy, but
I couldn't hear you, but you couldn't hear me or something.
He's like, I literally could not hear you. So that's why I was continuing to talk over you, but I didn't mean to do it because I couldn't hear what you were saying. So
that's where Trainwreck Radio came from, right?
That's where Trainwreck Radio was born.
All right, let's play.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Julian and Manny. Julian, you called in first, so you have your choice of Jon or Jim. Who do you want to go with?
John.
Smart. Thank you, Julian.
Manny, you get me. All right. Is this Manny Machado?
I wish it was.
Can you imagine?
He's like, I was going to pick
Yeah,
John.
I am. I'm just sitting at home doing some yard work.
Yeah,
I just have my
300
elbow
million,
operated
but he
on.
needs us to get into Bellator.
I want Avenged Sevenfold tickets. this is Bellator.
I got to call into Train Wreck Radio to my favorite show,
Dude,
Jon and Jim.
If I was super rich and famous, so it would be cool to try something like that, okay? Like just be
Like a
like the
fake
normal
name?
guy.
Yeah, like, hey, this is Bob from El Cajon.
That'd be amazing.
He's like, I love AJ.
oh,
Okay, so it's not Manny Machado. Dang it. Brent, what is the question of the day?
All right, as we talked about, the Commanders host the Bears tonight on Thursday Night Football. Today's question, can you name the top 10 passing leaders in career yardage in Washington history?
So predating the Commander's name.
Yeah, and it's the
The
Redskins.
All of
whole
them.
Washington
The
thing,
whole enchilada.
all their names.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just Washington history, career
Football
passing
team.
yardage.
Yeah.
All right, not Manny Machado. You are up first. What is your first guess? You do have your lifeline if you choose to use it. Manny.
I'm gonna use my lifeline. I always start with a lifeline.
He always starts with a lifeline.
Oh boy.
Top 10 passers.
I don't know much about the
Washington football team
team's
history.
I'll go with, I don't know, Kirk Cousins played there for a while. I'll go with Kirk Cousins.
Definitely on the list.
You take that,
Oh.
Manny?
Just kidding. He's not on the list.
Nah, I don't know about Kirk Cousins. He wasn't in it that long. I'm gonna
No,
go
he
with
wasn't.
Joe Theismann.
Joe
I'm an
Theismann.
idiot.
Yeah, you are. Manny's right. Jim's an idiot.
I just ruined
Now,
it. I just
Julian,
ruined my
that's
lifeline.
out there. That's out there.
All right, Julian, what do you got? First guess. You have your lifeline as well?
I'll take Cousins.
Smart. He's on the list, definitely. Modern NFL, definitely.
All right.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome, I guess. Manny, you're up next. What is your second guess? You do not have a lifeline, so it's all to you.
I'm gonna go with Mark Ryzen.
Mark
okay,
Risen.
you've definitely picked.
Who?
Mark Risen.
What's his name?
Ripien, Ryzen, Mark. It's Mark Ryzen.
Mark
Ripon. No.
Mark Reppin.
What?
Okay, Julian.
Google. Oh, I mean, you're Googling, dude. You went lifeline first, and now you said Mark Ripon.
No. I can't Google. I'm driving.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't buy it.
Okay. Julian says Mark Rippon.
No, he said,
On the
he
list.
said RG3.
Oh.
No, he said RG3. The previous guy said
Mark
R.
Ryzen.
What
I
is
know,
happening?
and I didn't count
This
it.
is
That's
just
why I
a
didn't count it for him.
What are we
Dude,
doing?
what we're doing is you can't mispronounce the last name of a player
Why
who's
not?
like a top 3 passer in the history of the
Especially-
franchise, because that means you don't know who it is.
Especially when you used your lifeline for the very first one.
Don't you think? I mean, seriously.
I don't know.
First one.
If I said Steve Curry, we're not going to count him as the all-time leading scorer for the Warriors.
Steve Curry?
Yeah, like
Oh,
you know, like
I don't know Mark Rippin or Ripon,
I know, and that's why you wouldn't have guessed it.
but also if you don't know, okay.
Well, see, that's the thing. If you don't know it, you would read it, and you read it wrong because you mispronounced it.
Manny can play under protest.
Okay.
Manny's up again. What else you got?
I'm not Googling, guys. I promise.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I believe you. What do you got? Next guess.
Me?
Yeah, you're up again.
Yeah, Manny.
Oh man. Dang it, I used my. You know what? I got no more guesses. I'm gonna go with Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
Well,
Is he also?
He's been
It's already
used
been
already.
used.
Is there a different Kirk Cousins? This is a disaster. Is that all you have, Manny?
I didn't use the lifeline on Kirk Cousins, so he's not available no more.
You used your lifeline already.
And then
Kirk-
Julian
and
used
yes.
Kirk Cousins.
dude, this is so bad.
You would know that if you weren't Googling.
Oh,
This is cringe.
Oh God! All right. Do you have any guesses there, Manny? Besides Kirk Cousins?
Let me go with Nah, man, I'm out of
All
it.
right, Manny's out.
Okay,
Julian wins,
Julian.
right?
Julian.
Is it 2-1?
Julian won.
That's it. Julian, you're the winner. A true train wreck. I jinxed it. I
You completely
jinxed
jinxed
it.
that thing, dude.
No, Jim, let me explain. Seriously, that situation.
Uh-huh.
And Manny, thank you for your listenership. But if the leading passer in the history of Washington, for example, is Mark Rippon,
Yeah,
and you call him Mark Ripon,
yeah,
you clearly don't know who he is, right?
I'm not like I'm not disputing it. I just think I don't know.
If I'm trying like Will Chamberlain, if we called him like
I mean, how
Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, but I mean,
no, what's your argument? I want to hear it. Let's see if it stands up.
Look, it's maybe was he Googling? Okay, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah, what if he said Kirk Cousins? Would you be like, oh, yeah, obviously?
Are you saying maybe we need questions that aren't as Googleable?
Maybe, or no, or just roll with. I don't know. Whatever you guys want to do. I don't know.
So you're playing it under protest?
I'm not playing under protest.
You don't care.
I just don't care. Like if they do or don't. Honestly, Google.
So Jim doesn't care if they cheat.
Well, it's not. I mean, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, do we know that anybody's not cheating? Do we truly know? Do we truly know that some people have not Googled?
Sorry, I can't deal with this. Julia, congratulations. You've won a pair of tickets to see 4 World Championship fights. Headline, Bellator MMA's historic 300th card, Saturday, October 7th, Pechanga Arena, San Diego. Tickets on sale now at AXS.com. Hour 3 next. Jesse Rogers, ESPN. If you missed it earlier, we'll play it back for you. His thoughts on Melvin and Preller at 5:30. You'll hear from Dave Roberts on roster construction and money spent. On the other side, it's Hour 3, Jon and Jim. What a train wreck. It's next.
I don't really.
We can talk about it here.
All right. Thanks to the Super JL Stevens.
Thanks, man.
Just thanks for starting the YouTube channel this year. Able to catch your content daily and don't have to wait for the wrap-up show.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, every day. And now that we're in the off season, I mean, wrap-up show's not going to be every night. It's going to be.
Oh, yeah, well.
No, it won't. It'll, the days and whenever there's breaking news, obviously. But yeah, this is probably the best place to view us on a daily basis at a certain time. So glad you guys are here, and thanks to the Superman. Appreciate it.
Where are we at with? We've been streaming the show since when?
This show?
Yeah, on YouTube.
2nd August.
So 2 months.
2 months. 2 months.
So we're 2 months in. Like Jim just said, please subscribe, by the way, if you are here as well. But yeah, we appreciate your support with the super chats. We get to every single super chat, SJL Stevens and others at the break. So we do appreciate your support of the channel. We're here weekdays 3 to 6 for you guys. And if you haven't subscribed to the Wrap Up Show, find that as well. Search the Wrap Up Show Padres on YouTube. So thanks, man. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
All right, this update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Bob Melvin confirming today to Bernie Wilson of the AP that he will, in fact, return next year to manage the Padres, the 2024 season. Baseball playoffs, it was a sweep all around in the wild card round. And the division series is now underway. Well, they're going to be underway this weekend. Texas takes on the Orioles, Twins and Astros, Phillies, Braves, D-backs, and Dodgers. NFL tonight, we have the Bears and the Commanders kicking off week 5 in about 15 minutes from now. And sad news today in the NFL as Hall of Famer and legend Dick Butkus passed away at the age of 80. Owning a Mercedes-Benz EV isn't just extraordinary, it's extra easy with full remote access to your vehicle from your phone via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes. The choice is all yours. Learn more at mbusa.com/EQ.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's the final hour of Jon and Jim. This hour, your chance to win a pair of tickets to Avenged Sevenfold. We actually have 2 pairs of tickets we'll give away. Be listening. We'll do that here between now and 5:30. Avenged Sevenfold, Saturday night, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. Jesse Rogers, ESPN. If you missed him earlier, we'll play that back for you at 5:30. His commentary on both Bob Melvin and AJ Preller returning for 2024. What a train wreck. Not well, that maybe, but the last 15 minutes here on Jon and Jim as well.
What I put out on Twitter today is pretty accurate.
Which is? I have you muted.
Oh, you do?
No, I don't.
When me and you after the show, we hug.
Oh my gosh.
That happens before the show, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, train wreck. It's nothing new. If you listen to that segment, we're sorry. We're sorry. But that's what you're going to have to expect from a Jon and Jim show every once in a while. So you're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, we're going to hear from Dave Roberts in a moment because he commented on money spent and roster construction, or was it money spent?
It was about building a roster.
Okay.
And you can't just how we've heard from multiple people in other organizations this past week, GMs and president of baseball operations, saying like, hey, we can't build a cohesive roster by spending a bunch of money. That's not the quick fix, is just not a way to sustain winning. And there's really only one team in baseball this year that tried the spend a boatload of money to win right now, and that was the San Diego Padres.
The Mets.
And the
Mets.
answer. And the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, nobody spent more this offseason than the Mets. Padres were not close to the Mets in spending. Padres payroll was $150 million short of the Mets, or 120?
100 million?
Yeah, I mean, Mets was the highest payroll in the history of the sport.
So maybe they're taking shots at the Mets.
Yeah, maybe.
But
it was
they'll take shots at the Padres.
It was not only the Padres that spent and didn't win, because Yankees, Mets, Padres are all in that category this year.
True. There's 3 teams, and you could, if you're talking about either one of those teams, you could all say that they're talking about your team.
All right, so this is Dave Roberts. His Dodgers preparing for another National League Division Series. You may recall they lost last year to the Padres. Here's Dave Roberts.
There's a lot of teams in our industry that realize that you just can't throw money at a roster and it equates to a championship. And baseball, more than any other sport, I think, is that way. With this particular group, we've got a mix of young guys, veteran guys, guys that have just come to the Dodgers, guys that have been with our club, know the culture for years, Clayton Kershaw being the forefront of that. And just for me, guys, just to see them kind of grow and come together, it's been fantastic. And, yeah, like you said, I think that the so-called experts. I don't think anyone had us winning 100 ball games, but it's a group that hung together, persevered, and does things the right way. And, if you're a baseball fan or a sports fan and you watch us play baseball, I think you really can kind of, really grow to really appreciate what we do each night. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, what our guys do this postseason.
Okay, relaxed little engine that could Oakland A's. I mean, it's not like the Dodgers aren't. The Dodgers have supplemented pretty nicely via free agency here recently.
Yeah,
let's not kid
they
ourselves.
have a pretty high payroll of last time I checked.
They do. And yes, they traded for Mookie Betts, but they then extended him to the largest deal in the history of the franchise. They went out and got Freddie Freeman and spent a lot of money doing it. So it's not as if they haven't used the free agent route before as well.
Right.
They're not winning with the 29th payroll.
No, the little engine that could mentality for the Dodgers is a rich thing to say.
Right. Oh,
like,
nobody has
really?
winning 100 games. You won 111 last year. And people did say, hey, you might take a 10 or 15 game step back and still be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was like, it's definitely the Padres division.
No.
People did say the Padres could win the division, but it wasn't like definitive.
No, it was we expect the Padres to compete with the Dodgers and it be a 2-horse race for that division. Like both teams could win 90 plus games.
Yes.
And only one did and one did not. So
now what's going to be interesting with this Diamondback series, I mean, the Dodgers should clearly beat the Diamondbacks. Just like a year ago, the Dodgers heading into the series were heavy favorites. So we'll see what happens. If the Dodgers don't get out of this round again, wow, is what I would say.
Yes.
As home favorites with home field advantage over 1 year of the Padres, who you cleaned up against in the regular season. The next year, the Arizona Diamondbacks, we'd have to look. They've cleaned up against Arizona the last decade. I mean,
I want to say
to a ridiculous clip like the Padres.
Yep.
So it will be interesting to see what happens with this iteration of the Dodgers. And to some extent, I agree with what he was saying, but this idea that like, man, we're just this likable, small market, budget conscious team.
Stop it.
It's like, come on, dude. It's very laughable.
The first part I do agree with when he is talking about you can't just throw money at a roster and throw a bunch of pieces together and like expect to win at the highest level right away. Because majority of the time that we've seen that in baseball, it's not worked.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name a situation that's happened where a team spent a boatload of money and it worked right away to a championship in baseball?
It's a great question. I would think to like the 1997 Marlins, the 2003 Marlins,
Did
at least
they
one of those
spend
teams.
a bunch of money, or they just have like a bunch of good prospects and they became good and then they
no
disbanded the team?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't think of.
There's definitely an example of a team spending money and getting rich quick and winning a World Series.
Yankees, early 2009 when they won the World Series.
No, but they already had like A-Rod in place. They've always been a spender like that.
But went out and signed CC Sabathia.
Yeah, 70470.
Matsui.
Who's done that? Who's gone the let's go all in route and won a World Series via free agency in the last 30 years? 70470 started with team. There's got to be an example.
I can only really think of right now that is the Yankees of 2009. Like that's the only thing I can think of. That didn't have like the true homegrown. Yes, you had Jeter.
Right.
And Jeter's a one of a kind.
Sure.
But I want to say majority of that roster was all free agents. If not,
the majority of the 2009 Yankees roster was all free agents, you're saying?
Yeah, look it up.
Who does anyone even?
I just want to know.
I mean, Rivera, Pettit, Jeter, Posada. Were they on this team?
I don't know.
A-Rod, Cano, Matsui, Brett Gardner. I mean, not really.
Okay, just kidding.
Right?
I mean, I don't. I'm just asking. I don't really fully know. Did they win the World?
It's a good question. They
won
the World Series in 2009.
Okay, 103 and 59. Pretty damn good.
Thanks, Jim facts. Yeah, it is.
But look, you got CC Sabathia, AJ Burnett. Those two pitchers right there were bought off the free agent market. Okay.
Dude, it's the New York Yankees.
I know.
Nobody spent more in free agency over the last 3 decades than them.
Hideki Matsui, Alex Rodriguez, Mark Teixeira, those guys, Nick Swisher, all brought in via free agency or trades. And Johnny Damon as well.
Yeah, but nobody looks back at the 2009 Yankees and they're like they bought the World Series. What was their record in 2008? They were probably good.
2008. Let me check here. They finished third in the AL East, 89 and 73.
Yeah. All right.
And that team did not have AJ Burnett or CC Sabathia. That team also did not have Mark Teixeira on it.
If the point you're trying to make is that if you don't have the developed core, it's harder to win than going out the free agent route, we all agree with.
Yeah.
And we've said that even following this Padres team when it's been good,
and even
for
with
the last couple of years.
And even with this Yankees team, that's the only team I'm thinking of, like, okay, they went out and spent a boatload of money in the offseason, and it resulted right away in a World Series.
Mm-hmm.
But that team, like you said, that they had a core already in place of Cano, Jeter, A-Rod.
Yeah, it's a legitimate core.
Rivera.
Yeah. Right.
Now, do the Padres have the same thing? Do the Padres have a core that you feel good about? That's kind of like, hey, we got Manny, we got Tatis, we got Bogarts. Problem is, they can't go out and buy
they spent
pitchers
to get that core, really.
Yeah. But they're still their core. They didn't draft Alex Rodriguez, or
no, they didn't.
And didn't they trade for Robinson Cano, or did they draft Robinson Cano?
They didn't draft Cano.
Johnny Damon they went out and got. Bobby Abreu that year, Hideki Matsui.
Okay. So point being, it's hard to win by spending via free agency if you want to win at the very highest levels.
Yeah.
Which we know.
Yeah, duh.
Everyone's saying that. Like every single GM in baseball this offseason is saying that exact same thing. Shoot, Dick Monfort 6 months ago, when it wasn't even in vogue to say it, was taking shots at the way the Padres were going about their business. It's not sustainable. You can't win that way. And this was the owner of the lowly Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a widely held belief. With all that being said, there are no shortcuts in baseball or sports. People still try to take shortcuts. And I do think Padres in 2020, short season, they tried to win at the trade deadline. They said, you know what? We can win the World Series. I mean, it's a 60-game season with no fans.
Yeah.
Why can't we win the World Series? Let's change our entire roster at the deadline. Let's go get an ace in Mike Clevenger. Didn't work out. And then I think they've treated a lot of trade deadlines and off seasons like we're taking huge swings. It'll market our franchise effectively, and who knows, it might work on field too. And at times it's worked, at other times it is not. But this isn't sustainable long term. They can't keep doing this. They need to develop. We all understand this. For it to be the decade of the Padres, it's not going to be because they go out and sign Shohei Ohtani every offseason.
And they don't have anybody. They might, but it doesn't feel like they have anybody that is ready to go right now to fill in those gaps from your organization.
Right.
To have that core of homegrown talent instead of having to go out and make trades and try and sign people to huge contracts. That's the question going into next year is like, how are they going to fill the gaps and how are they going to fill the holes? Because I don't think it's going to be by spending big money. Could be wrong.
Do I.
Could be wrong. They could say, hey, screw it, we're quadrupling down. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to go, okay, the other options now are trying to find bargain pieces for like 1 or 2 year deals that hopefully will turn into something, and trades and or homegrown talent that are going to have to play huge roles because they need to fill big holes.
Yeah, he was selling AJ yesterday that our talent in the minor leagues is now at the upper levels of the minors as opposed to like a year ago.
Heard that before.
And I think some of it is true. Like he's graduated guys like Lesko, Snelling, Salas, Merrill to AA, but very little seasoning at the AA level. The 4 players I just mentioned, I don't even know if Lesko's gotten there, but 3 of those 4 players, even by getting to AA, have very little AA seasoning. Not to say that you can't go from A-ball or little seasoning in AA to make an impact the next year in the big leagues. You can, but 3 or 4 guys with little AA seasoning are supposed to play large roles for a team that's supposed to contend for a World Series. That's going too far. I just feel like they're like a half season to a season in front of a wave of players that could help them. And oh, by the way, what's weird about the Padres is you don't typically have this young core. Let's even say this core works. Merrills, Salases, Snellings, Leskos all work out. You've got your 20-year-old core with your aging 30-year-old plus big money free agents. That's a weird dynamic. 10 years plus of separation between the money and the core coming up through the system. That's very abnormal. Very.
Yeah, it is. It's a weird way
Isn't
of
that
constructing
weird?
things. And until I see it with my 2 eyes, I won't believe that they know what they're doing. By they, I mean AJ Preller and this front office as far as development goes. Like, I got to see it, man. I can't sit here and be like, yeah, that guy's going to make an impact, because every time someone has said, yeah, that guy's going to make an impact, that guy has not made an impact.
True. Other than like Tatis. Again, technically wasn't drafted by them. Everyone said he was going to make an impact. He certainly has made an impact.
Yeah.
There have been highs and lows with Fernando Tatis Jr. It's just interesting. Like, even Ethan Salas, and the organization's so high on him, and a lot of people are, evaluators are. If he gets the big leagues as a 19-year-old, you got Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts as 33-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's even if he gets there in 2 years. If he gets there as a 20-year-old, they're 34. It's not like you're going to have this long time where Ethan Salas is playing with Manny Machado in his prime. That might be like a season where Ethan Salas is playing with a Manny Machado and a Xander Bogaerts when they're in their primes.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I just, the approach that I think I will be taking up until next year and even into the season is, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, whoever they trade for in the offseason, or whoever they sign, or whatever they trade away for, it's like, okay, do I like that move? Yes or no? And then the caveat is, well, guess what? I don't trust this franchise. I don't trust AJ Preller, so I got to wait to see it before I can believe it.
My only I'm all in take is if they land Ohtani. I mean, which is comical, but I guarantee when we get to free agency, there will be articles written about the Padres' desire to land Shohei Ohtani. We've already seen it. John Heyman this summer.
Dude can't help himself.
Bob Knightley, right? So,
can't help himself.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, hey, they could move Soto.
Especially when you're like literally Teflon and you can do no wrong. Why not go after Ohtani? You can't do anything wrong. In the eyes of the only person that matters for your job security, you are excellence. You can do nothing of consequence. You can have bad year after bad year after bad year with no division titles and no World Series appearances and no World Series and reports of dysfunction, all of that you want. Hey, you know who I care about? All I care about, if I'm AJ Preller, is what Peter thinks. And if Peter thinks I'm great, which he does, screw you guys. I don't care what you think. And I'm going after Ohtani. I'm going after who else? I'm going to try to trade this person. I'm trying to sign Juan Soto to a $7 million contract or $700 million contract.
$7 million would be awesome.
That'd be great.
I will say this, and we all agree. If Ohtani comes here next year, his season will be identical to Xander Bogaerts' 2023.
Yeah, he'll suck.
It'll be a struggle for a year.
He will suck, and it will be bad. And then when he comes back pitching, he'll have like a 4.8 ERA.
It's like they just can't get it right.
No.
It's crazy. I mean, even Juan Soto puts together a good year. Like, well, it was good, but it wasn't great.
Blake Snell is going to win the Cy Young.
And they won 80 games or 82 games.
So, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
I agree with you. All right, call right now if you want a pair of tickets to see Avenged Sevenfold. Saturday night at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. Our first two callers are getting free pairs of tickets.
Oh,
Saturday night, North Island Credit Union Amphitheater, Avenged Sevenfold, 844-570-1360. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com, 844-570-1360. If you missed Jesse Rogers from ESPN earlier, his thoughts on AJ Preller and Bob Melvin returning, plus Jim's back page. Stay with us on Jon and Jim. Hey guys, it is Shay Fry. I've been telling you about Loan Pronto, and if you need cash to pay off credit cards or do a home improvement, I'm so excited to introduce you to the newest, fastest, easiest way to access the equity in your home. Loan Pronto is here with the revolutionary Express Equity line of credit. It's so cool. It's an amazing program. You can get cash out of your home in as fast as 5 days, and you can leave your 3% mortgage intact. Loan Pronto can pull $50K. $100K, even $200,000 out of your record high home value. That's money you can use to pay off those record high credit cards with those insane rates right now of 25%. We get it. Prices are going up, or maybe you want to use the money to do a home improvement, add solar panels, whatever it is. Here's the best part. 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. You can call now, see how easy it is, trust me, to get a lot of cash in about 5 days. Loan Pronto's Express Equity line of credit. Here's the number to call. 619-207-4336 or go to loanpronto.com. Write this number down, 619-207-4336. That's 619-207-4336. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
All right, this update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. Thursday Night Football, Week 5 is underway in the NFL, and the Bears currently lead the Commanders 7-0 with 12:04 left in the first quarter. Bob Melvin today confirmed to the AP and Bernie Wilson that he will be returning to manage the Padres next year. And the postseason in baseball, the division series are set. D-backs will take on the Dodgers, Phillies, and Braves. And then in the American League, we have the Rangers taking on the Orioles and the Twins taking on the Astros. And sad news today in the NFL as Hall of Famer and legendary Bear Dick Butkus. He has passed away at the age of 80. Owning a Mercedes-Benz EV isn't just extraordinary, it's extra easy with full remote access to your vehicle from your phone via the Mercedes Me Connect app. The vehicles are all electric. The feeling is all Mercedes. The choice is all yours. Learn more at mbusa.com/EQ. All right, John is on his way to call high school football. So if you missed it earlier in the day, we had Jesse Rogers of ESPN join us at the start of the show. And it was an interesting conversation we had with Jesse. And we started off asking him, was he surprised that the Padres are they are running it back this year with Bob Melvin and AJ Preller? Take a listen.
Yeah, I hate to kind of give you a cop out here, but I would not have been surprised either way. I would not have been surprised if one of them left or both of them left. I'm sure you guys were all discussing that for days, if not weeks and months. But I'm not shocked that they're returning. And the reason is, look, that's a good, talented team that went, 1-11 in extra innings. All these weird things kind of happen, but there's talent there. They just need to mold it a little bit better. Remember that teams win championships, not all-star appearances, things like that. So I'm not shocked. I mean, I know a lot of people thought Bob Melvin would want to walk away, but there's not a lot of teams that talented. And you've had a year. It didn't go well. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it didn't shock me that they're both back, but it would not have surprised me if one or both were gone either.
Jesse, recently in the past couple of days, you have heard more and more from other teams when asked about spending, and it feels like there's been a lot of pushback from other teams about, hey, you can't spend a bunch of money and expect to win. You got to build the right core, and that quick fix, I guess, approach it doesn't work. And if you want to look at the Padres, I'm not saying that they're saying that, but like the Padres are the perfect example of that quick fix, put a bunch of money in your franchise, does not work. Do you see next year them being able to compete by lowering their payroll, but also still having a very top-heavy roster?
I love when people say it doesn't work. How many of those people picked the Padres to go far into the playoffs this year back in March, including myself? Like, we all say it in hindsight. It can work if you have the right mix in the locker room. We've seen it over the last few years. High payrolls can go far. Low payrolls can go far. There's no real great rhyme or reason. I'd rather spend money than not. If I'm a fan of a team, I'd rather see that. But you do have to have the role players, the grinders, and maybe it was a lesson learned that it just doesn't, take a bunch of all-stars, rolling them out there in April and think you're going to win it all. So I think that's what they have to address. That, okay, we have the star guys. Now we need the grinders, or maybe we need some of the stars to grind a little bit. I mean, this is where Bob Melvin has to earn his paycheck as much as AJ Preller. I know everybody's probably anti-AJ Preller out there, but it's Melvin's job to mold these stars that he's been handed. Who didn't want Xander Bogaerts? Who doesn't want Manny or Fernando, right? I mean, that's the thing. Back in January, February, March, we're talking about this being one of the great teams in recent memory, and now we're all saying, no, you can't win with them. Well, it's Melvin's job to mold it. It's AJ Preller's job to figure out where the holes are and fill it in. And then, it's up to the players, obviously, to come together. It just didn't happen this year. So, yes, the answer is yes. Of course they can get back at it, but they've got to find that sweet spot of chemistry and grinding out as the good teams do. Even the high payroll teams do it.
Well, 2024 here is going to be fascinating, and we'll see if something has to give or not based on how they play on field. Jesse Rogers, ESPN, with us right now on Jon and Jim. I'm sure you saw some of the reported dysfunction. It was written locally. It was written nationally, even quotes anonymously like a civil war between Preller and Melvin. How do you react to reading some of that if both of these men are returning to their roles?
Well, like I said, it's such a good situation to be in. You're in San Diego. I mean, you're not going to walk away unless you really, really are unhappy. So, okay, they're back in their roles. Maybe they are not the best of friends, although Preller said it is a friendship. I don't know if ownership said to Preller, look, this is your last manager, right? He's had like 5 of them. So maybe they're being forced to work together. But the point is, you can work together. Now, you need pretty decent working relationship, even if you're not friends, and that remains to be seen. Like, was it that bad of a working relationship? Neither one's walking away. Neither one's been fired. So someone believes they can get along. So that's kind of where I fall. It's better if you're friends and have a great working relationship, but as long as you can work together, that's okay. Now, AJ, he beats to his own drum. He's a little different of a guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of out there. I feel like he sort of isolates himself in a lot of ways, and that draws criticism. So he works in a different manner, and maybe after a couple of years here, they'll figure out the sweet spot to work together. But yeah, I had heard things all along that they just didn't get along, and a lot of people that I talked to thought Melvin was going to walk away. There's jobs in San Francisco and Cleveland that are open, other places. But look, none of those jobs have Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis, and Manny Machado, and Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish and everybody. So I still think that, yeah, if it's not perfect, it doesn't mean it can't work, but maybe it can't be as bad as last year. They've got to sort of rebound from what happened last year and come together.
Yeah, it is interesting. Get a bunch of reports, and even you've heard that the relationship was not good, and then all of a sudden they're best buddies at the end of the year after just a couple days.
That's kind of what I'm saying. You could become best buddies when you realize we got a lot of talent here. Let's give this another shot.
Right. Yeah. I just in 82 and 80 season, it maybe like look okay on paper, but then you look at the roster and the expectations, and you're like, how is this been able to like just been swept under the rug? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Jesse, one player that I feel like is going to draw a lot of interest this offseason with the Padres is Juan Soto. How much interest do you think it will be drawn, as far as trading for him goes from other teams? And do you think that that's a possibility with the payroll, limitations that potentially the Padres could be facing coming up next year, that he could be dealt this offseason?
Yeah, no, I think it's a possibility. In part because the free agent class isn't that great outside of Shohei, of course. This isn't the deepest free agent class. So then you look to guys that are tradable. Soto is certainly in that category. Pete Alonso is in that category. Guys with 1 year left. I mean, maybe Alonso more likely than Soto in a lot of ways, because it seems like the Mets are going to do a little retool. I mean, that's what Scherzer told everybody, right? So, I think because the free agent class isn't too deep after Ohtani and Bellinger, from a position player standpoint and even pitchers, I think that's where teams would kick the tires a little bit more. These are such difficult trades to make, the 1 year kind of thing. We always talk about, well, maybe they'll trade for him and sign him right away. It's a Boris client. It rarely happens, not impossible. Pete Alonso now is a Boris client, apparently. So the sort of trade and sign, it sounds good. It just rarely happens in reality. I guess it did with Francisco Lindor, not a Boris client. So I don't know. I don't know what the possibility is. Here's my point. I'm not sure that San Diego is going to get true value if the team trading for Soto just doesn't know if he's going to stick around for one more year. Now, Soto could be the finishing touch on a bunch of teams. Who knows? Like the Yankees. I mean, they're desperate to get back to the among the elite teams. I think they'll go after Bellinger. Maybe they can put some trade together for Soto. So I think a desperate team would do it for 1 year. A more measured team isn't likely to do it unless it's just a couple prospects, because it's 1 year. That's it. So the trade and sign just doesn't seem likely with Boris. Not impossible, but just not likely.
Jesse Rogers, ESPN, with us on Jon and Jim. So, Jesse, I look at the Mets and Padres and the strategies off disappointing seasons, and they're 180s. The Mets selling off parts. Padres did not. The David Stearns hire in season. Billy Epler is out. Preller is not. When you look at the two strategies, what do you make of the way that the Mets have done it and the way that Peter Seidler and the Padres have done it?
Oh, I don't think it's really hard to figure it out. AJ Preller goes to Peter, says, "Look, we were 2-12 in extras. We were 9-23 in one-run games. We were -10 in the luck factor, which is built into those numbers. Our Pythagorean win-loss record was supposed to be 92-70. You can make it, and you know what? He may not be wrong. The run differential screams a better record. And weird things happen sometimes. So that's what you can say. Look, that strategy that they're on is not such a bad one. Repeat the season with that run differential, we might be 92-70. So that's the difference. The Mets really were bad. San Diego was bad, and there's the difference. There's no but with the Mets. And they had an older, and that's everything. Very old roster there, going for it with Verlander and Scherzer. So that was either going to work or it was going to implode, and it imploded. I think it's a different situation with San Diego, and I think that's what you can sell to ownership if you're AJ Preller.
Jesse, moving to the division round of the postseason, all sweeps in the wild card round. The Diamondbacks were the only upset there, beating the Brewers. That was kind of interesting. But moving over to the division round, Jesse, what series are you most looking forward to watching?
Well, obviously everybody's going to say Philadelphia, Atlanta, and I am. But I am on the Minnesota Twins bandwagon. I just, there's something about that team. I like them in this series. Everybody's like, they haven't won in 20 years. Yeah, well, it's going to break at some point. I thought Toronto was flawed. I'm not surprised they swept. I love Houston as an organization. They've done great, but there's always that vulnerability factor after winning a World Series. Like, we haven't seen a repeat in forever. So let's work backwards from the idea that they're not going to repeat. Well, okay, that means they're going to lose somewhere along the way. It could be in the World Series. So I kind of want to see what the Twins can do. They have starting pitching, probably as good as anyone left in the playoffs. There's all sorts of teams that have maybe one or two starters, but not so deep, right? Even the Dodgers, like, I give Diamondbacks a chance with Merrill Kelly and Zach Gallen. The Dodgers aren't the deepest starting staff right now. It's not Kershaw, 27 years old, right? So, and Lance Lynn, I mean, yeah, he could go either way. So I obviously Philly Atlanta is going to be a war, absolute war. I'm going to Philadelphia for when the series shifts there. But I kind of like to see some of these upsets potentially with Minnesota or even Arizona. So those are the couple series I'm actually interested in more, just because I think the underdogs have a chance. Having said that, it's the first time in history a team, the Diamondbacks, with a negative run differential facing a team with a 200-plus run differential. So, look, Minnesota and obviously the history of Houston here, these teams, Minnesota and Arizona, are going to be huge underdogs, but I still give them a shot.
Jesse, one more before you go. The free agent markets for Blake Snell and Josh Hader, you'd be surprised if either was back in San Diego, right, off the seasons they just had?
I think so. I'm not too in tune with what they're going to spend Padre-wise this offseason, but obviously they've spent a lot already. Man, I mean, if you could keep Snell, you should, right? I mean, as soon as you let him go, you got to replace him somehow. But obviously they have some starting pitchers there. Look, Hader's going to get a good contract, but executives have gotten smarter and smarter about closers. A lot of them like to develop them from within. Again, a finishing touch for a team, maybe that's the case. Closers are just so much more valuable at the trade deadline than they are in the winter. But it doesn't mean he won't get a big contract because he's Josh Hader. So I think he will. But sometimes we think the market's bigger for some of those guys than it is. But Snell's market should be good. There's just not many great starting pitchers. He's going to win the Cy Young. So many teams. I just mentioned a bunch of playoff teams that are a little short in that department. So think about those teams going into next year, and think about these teams that are trying to climb into the next tier. So there's going to be a great market for Blake Snell. He's going to get paid big money. Hader, the market's just going to be smaller, and I think that's just how it works with closers in the winter.
Jesse, great stuff. We're looking forward to the divisional round. Really appreciate you taking time for us today in San Diego. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks, Jesse.
Anytime, guys. Have a good offseason.
All right, you as well. Jesse Rogers, ESPN. A lot of good insight there.
A lot of good insight there for sure, John. All right, coming up next, got a bunch of stories on the back page. You're going to want to tune in. Also, an update on this Bears game. I hear Brent screaming on the other side of the glass there. All of that coming up next on Jon and Jim. All right, coming up, my back page. Also, we'll give you an update on this Bears Commanders game. All that coming up next. All right, final stop on Jon and Jim today. It's just me and Brent here until the end of the show because Jon is making his way down to Chula Vista to call a high school football game. Speaking of football, I hear you screaming in the control room, Brent. Does
10-zip Bears.
10-zip Bears?
3.5 to go in the first.
So what's happening in this game?
Fields,
10-zip.
DJ, a lot of DJ Moore. We got a DJ
Love
Moore
me some
touchdown
DJ Moore.
pass and a field goal.
Sorry, Brent. I don't care if the Bears lose by 30 as long as DJ Moore has like 5 touchdowns. I'm cool.
I just want him to win. We've lost 14 in a row.
So you finally want them just to win one game, get it over with, and then go back to the tank, or do you truly believe that they could go somewhere?
I'm not sold on them tanking for Caleb Williams yet because I haven't fully given up on Justin Fields yet because I don't know if it's Justin Fields or if it's our crappy and net coaching staff. I'm kind of leaning towards, I saw a thing today that I'd rather almost have them keep Fields and then use the 1 and 2 pick if they still have it on Harrison Jr. And then take that big offensive lineman from Penn State because our offensive line is horrible. I think if Fields had some more time to throw, I think we could work with Fields. I think it'd be harder to go out and get offensive linemen and other stuff than to just do that in Harrison. So I haven't made up my mind yet if I'm sold on Fields or if I want to sell him yet. I don't know yet.
Okay. Well, 10-0 Bears. DJ Moore already a touchdown. Bears are back, baby. Brent, let's get to it.
It's winning for Dick.
Yeah. Brent, did you ever want, when you were a kid and you watched Home Alone 2, drive around in New York in a limo, eating pizza and just living the life?
Sure. I thought you were going to ask if I wanted a talk boy. It's like one of my buddies used to have one of those.
Did you want a talk boy? No. Well, right now the Plaza Hotel, the hotel in New York that was filmed for Home Alone 2, is offering a Home Alone limo and pizza experience.
Oh, 1 cheese pizza just for me.
You can get lost in New York with the Home Alone 2 Lost in New York experience, where you will be in a limo You get a limo ride around the town, and you also get some of the pizza, or I guess cheese pizza. It says right
Yeah,
here.
because that's what Kevin's thing was. He didn't like toppings. He
Yeah.
only liked cheese.
It just says you get Kevin's cheese pizza. So you get that.
Are they going to take you to the toy store?
It's not. It says it's not a guided tour.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's not going to be like,
Yeah,
like
I know
that
the
type
toy
of
store
thing.
that they went to is like a made up one, but I figured they'd take you to like FOA Shorts or something like that.
So the 4-hour private limo ride around the city, you get to visit some of the movie's famous filming locations. You get to go to the Empire State Building, Rockefeller Center, Central Park, Carnegie Hall, and Radio City Music Hall. Does not say how much the experience is. Oh, sorry. Yes, it does. The price of the experience.
The plaza ain't cheap, so.
No. The price of the experience comes in addition to the price of lodgings. I guess the staying at the hotel.
Yeah.
$3,195
a night.
Including the ride, because the room rates range from $1,000 to over $32,000.
But that'd be just for the one night.
Just for the one night and the ride. So you want to spend the over $3,000 to
maybe
go to limo?
if I win the 1.4 billion or whatever on Saturday, maybe I'll think about it.
Yeah, 1.4 billion. Okay, let's bring here. What would you say, Brent, is the number one fast food, like chicken, I guess, fast food place?
Chick-fil-A or Popeyes.
You're correct. I think a lot of people might have said KFC.
Well, they just got the chicken sandwich like last year, a year and a half ago. They were late to the chicken sandwich.
But KFC's been around forever.
Oh yeah, they've been around forever. Yeah.
And KFC's
kind of. They used to be Kentucky Fried Chicken.
I know. Now it's just KFC. But KFC's slipping because Chick-fil-A remains at number one as far as the best chicken chain restaurant in the country. It was KFC as number two, but now Popeyes has overtaken KFC as the number two fast food chicken chain in the country.
I can see that. When they had their chicken sandwich came out, people were, we were talking about giving away MMA tickets. People were punching each other in the face over that Popeyes chicken sandwich. So I can see it.
I remember when the Popeyes chicken sandwich came out for that, like you said, it was the hardest thing to get. It became a viral thing.
Oh yeah.
But nothing can beat, I feel like, Chick-fil-A.
No, I love Chick-fil-A.
For a limited time, Taco Bell, for the Taco Bell lovers, you can get the new Taco Lovers Pass, 30 days of tacos for just $10. Taco Bell's, quote, digital taco subscription, known as the Tacos Lover Pass, rewards members who sign up for the promotion through the Taco Bell app on Tuesday or Wednesday at the restaurant later next week. Will be able to purchase for a one-time only $10 for 30 days. You get to get tacos for 30 days for $10.
How many tacos though? Is it like one taco a day?
It says fans can stick to a personal favorite or expand their taste horizons by selecting any of the following options on any given day. One taco per day: crunchy taco supreme, soft taco supreme, spicy potato soft taco, Doritos Locos Taco Supreme, and a toasted breakfast taco during breakfast hours only, beginning on October 12th.
So you can have one of the smallest tacos they offer every day.
Every day. You can get one of the smallest tacos that they offer. What happened in the game? Brent, you are freaking out back there. I love watching.
It's still 10-0, but the end of the first quarter, the Bears almost scored. They're on like the 10.
Bro, Bears are back, dude. Bears are officially back. Well, tomorrow on the show, Kevin Acee will join us, and we will get to the bottom of everything that has happened with the Padres this past week. Also, JB Long will join the show as well. Talk about the Rams and Cooper Kupp returning this weekend, presumably, to the roster along with Puka Nacua. That will do it for today. John, we'll talk to him on Monday. Thank you to Paul Charchian. Thank you to all of you for joining us, even though you had to endure Trainwreck Radio today. Happens, but
why? That's going on our best of, probably.
That is probably definitely going on our best of. All right, keep it right here. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 3 p.m. Jon and Jim. Have a great night, everybody. Continue listening to San Diego Sports 760.
Okay.
Okay.